Right, hello and welcome to the Global Host Report webinar. We're delighted to have so many people with us this evening. With me today are our influencers Anik and Dolly. I'll be introducing them shortly. Just a few logistics things. We'd love to get Q&A from the audience. So if you do have questions, please use the Q&A functionality. We do have the chat, as you can see too. There are Price Labs people available in the chat, so do also leave comments there. If you want and if you have a question, someone from Price Labs will answer it for you. Fantastic to see so many different nationalities, so many different countries. Please do drop in the chat where you're coming from. This is the Global Host Report, so we do want to hear from people from around the world. Look at that, that's fantastic. Great, let's get started with an introduction to our panel today. I'll start with myself and then hand over to Anik and then to Dolly. My name is Sharon. I'm your host here today. I am the VP of Marketing at Price Labs, and I am based in Barcelona, Spain. So I'll be sharing with you some thoughts of what it's like to be a host here in Spain. I have two properties that I also rent out myself on Airbnb, so I have some idea of what many of you in the audience are going through. Anik, over to you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Anik from Favo Angels. I'm a short-term rental consultant based in Germany, and yeah, so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Anik. Great to have you here. And Dolly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dolly Duran. I'm a longtime host here in South Florida. So shout out to my South Florida people. And I'm also a very active part of the global host community. I'm also the co-founder of Atelier 5 Star. That's a training company that my husband and I created with the goal of modernizing and elevating hospitality education. Great to be here.
Thank you so much, Dolly. So as you can see, our panelists are global as well from around the world. And fantastic to see just so many countries we have on the call today. Really impressive. Now we're here, of course, because this week we just launched the Global Host Report. We went out and spoke with 1,400 different hosts, people who have between 1 and 4 listings available for short-term rentals. And I encourage you, I'm going to share a link shortly for you to take a read through this. But some of the really interesting things that you'll see and we'll be discussing today, what the challenges people are having with the OTAs and why they're seeking independence. You'll see a big uptick in demand for people creating their own direct booking website. There's some good guidance and advice in there on which tech is helping our hosts and which tech is perhaps just adding time, and what profitable hosts are investing in 2026. So some of the things inside that report that surprised us as we wrote the report. Firstly, just how much work all of you are doing. 83% of you are doing your hosting after you've done another job. So you do a full-time job during the day, you come home and then attend to your hosting. That's pretty tough. The other thing we heard from you is just how difficult the review system is on the OTAs and that many of us feel is one-sided. 71% of us worry about guest reviews, and not the sort of guest reviews where it's fair, where something went wrong that none of us could foresee. The sort of guest reviews where things are unfair. I spoke with one host the other day who got a 3-star review because it rained during the evening, and that doesn't seem very fair. The other thing that surprised us is that, in spite of all of the tech, of all of the improvements, AI and everything, Still, the things that are difficult for many of us as hosts are just the very basic cleaning and maintenance requirements. And yet, what's really encouraging and great for us to see is just how optimistic and proud this group is. Many of the people who answered the survey talk about their impact on the local economy and how proud they are that they're able to employ local people or drive people to local restaurants, etc. So fantastic to see. So I saw a question. Yes, you very much can read the report. A link has just appeared in the chat. Please feel free, go to that landing page, download the report. If you're a Price Labs customer or one of the people that answered the survey, you will also be getting sent a copy directly to your email. All right, what we're here to talk about today, as you saw in the webinar, are 3 myths for hosting that seem to be persisting in throughout media, throughout the community, and we're going to bust those myths today. The first one is that hosting is a side hustle. We very much see in the report that that is no longer the case. We see that hosting is professionalizing, and we see that people are treating their hosting as real businesses. 49% of the people that answered the survey are planning to expand their portfolio. 22% actually want to go full time. So this is it might be something they do after a job right now, but that's not their ultimate goal. And 56% of people are taking any profit that they get and reinvesting back in their portfolio. So let me turn over now to our fantastic panelists. And Dolly, perhaps I'll start with you. Love to hear from you. If there is someone in our audience today that is thinking perhaps about going full time in their hosting, what advice would you give to them?
Well, the advice that I would give to someone who wants to go full time with hosting is to, you got to have a solid foundation. You have to have your turnovers in check, no hiccups there, have a solid maintenance team. So if something goes wrong, especially during a guest stay, you have someone that you can turn to. Treat it like a business, like you mentioned. Start tracking your earnings and expenses, and then understand the seasons, the highs and the lows. And then my favorite part, of this is automate wherever you can, whether it's guest messaging or turnovers, cleaning, just automate, automate, automate. And once you have the basics down, now you can begin to scale with a lot more intention. But going full time, I think, is absolutely possible after you have built a solid and strong foundation.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dolly. And Nick, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, just adding to what Dolly just said is I love the book Profit First, if I can mention that, which shows you a very simple way to be in control over your finances at every single day. And this is something very, very important. And it's a very simple book, and it's really worth reading it. So just try it out. It's just great. It changed my whole business.
Great, fantastic. Maybe we can put the link to that book in the chat for anyone out there. And Dolly, we see, as you see on the screen, 56% of our respondents were interested in reinvesting in their portfolio. As they're thinking about how to do that, what advice would you give about where do they even start with reinvesting back in their portfolio?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say to really be strategic. So when you're thinking of reinvest with purpose. Look at what is actually performing, and then look at where are the opportunities. Also, when you're thinking about upgrades, like think small first, so focus on basic things like maybe a better bed, great lighting, or Wi-Fi extenders, something that's really going to make a difference for the guest. And those are things that are going to pay off in the long run. And then when you're looking at something bigger, if you have a little bit of a bigger spend, what I did is I looked at my competition and I saw, what were guests mentioning in their reviews that I don't have. And that one thing was a pool heater. So last year I sprung for a pool heater, and that really helped, maintain some good bookings during the high season. Um, but that would be my recommendation when someone is looking to reinvest, within their portfolio.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I love your point on Wi-Fi. I so wish everywhere had fantastic Wi-Fi. It's unfortunately not the case, even still. Um, I'm really interested in how you think about balancing investing in amenities that might look good on your listing, that might do more for your marketing, or do you spend more time investing in amenities that, as you mentioned, come up in the reviews?
Yeah, for me, I know that I'm competing with other hosts. So, you know, that's a tactic that I started a couple of years ago. I'm obsessed, honestly, with looking at reviews of the competitors. And I look at where they're doing really well and where their opportunities are. So something as simple as cleaning. I mean, anybody who knows me personally knows that I am absolutely obsessed with a very good turnover, that things have to be absolutely spotless. And then the second to that are amenities. So, you know, things as simple as providing really good coffee, cold water in the fridge. Somebody's traveling 8, 9 hours to arrive at your place. Those things are important. Having snacks out for the guests. I mean, these are, seem like basic things that might get overlooked, but there's no reason to overlook them. Provide that to your guests every single time, and they're going to have a great experience, and that's going to turn into great reviews, and great reviews turn into more bookings.
Oh, Dolly, I definitely want to say you're listening. You're talking to my heart here. Good Wi-Fi and coffee. Two things I definitely look for. Anik, how do you think about that? How do you think about whether you invest more in something that's going to market the property, maybe make it slightly different to those nearby, or do you think about reinvesting back in those core things that guests are mentioning in the reviews?
Oh, there I have a very interesting story because one host just told me, oh, we've invested. We got rid of our sauna because guests were complaining that our bedroom is too small. So they got, yeah, I can see your face. I
Love a
think
sauna. Right after Wi-Fi and coffee would be a sauna. But
Right.
yeah,
well,
sorry, go
I
ahead.
think this wasn't the best decision they could ever make. So what I would say is reviews are always, if they keep on coming like that, you can think about how to solve that problem. But if you're thinking about getting rid of something as important as a sauna, for example, I would first suggest to take a look, maybe like on booking.com, search your region and then go down to the filter that the guest has. So then, because there you see the amenities that are likely to be popular in this certain region. They are all different from all different regions. And like that, you have their little numbers showing how many apartments offer this kind of amenities. And very often you see like an how you say of electric charger for cars. Many apartments don't have that, and if you don't have any electric station nearby, this would be a great thing to invest in. And the booking search filter is such a cool thing to find this out.
That's a great piece of advice. Yeah, and it's a really interesting point and question. And actually, somebody in the chat mentioned that in their area there are only three properties with saunas. It's a great way of thinking about it. And I'm also in this boat because I have a jacuzzi in my property, and it's great for marketing. But of course, it's also a very difficult amenity to keep clean, to keep on top of, and to ensure people use responsibly. So, how do you consider amenities like that, Dolly, which which on the one hand are great for marketing, but on the other hand, are very difficult from a host perspective to maintain.
Well, like I said, turnovers have to be, a breeze because, I mean, although right now I have my listing so that I have like a day in between, right, for turnovers. But not everybody has that. And the more that this is becoming, like a real business for folks, you're going to have those tighter turnovers. So for me, it has to make sense as well. You have to make it as easy as possible on yourself. Think with the guest in mind, but make it as easy as possible as well. It's not a hotel. You're not going to be able to have absolutely everything. That's why I like to focus. I have a strong foundation, coffee, I'm your girl. I'm going to get you any type of coffee you want, even if you have a special request, like I will come through for things like that. I have a nice, beautiful pool heat. You know what I mean? Like I have kayaks, that's good.
Okay, I'm planning my trip to Florida. That sounds amazing.
You too, Anik.
Anik, how do you think about that? How do you, what are your foundations that are important for you in your portfolio?
Um, it's just like Dolly. I think before we should think about any kind of expensive investments, we should think about what's really important to the guest. And this can be, like Dolly said, when you had an 8-hour flight and you arrive in America and in Germany, you're not prepared that you cannot drink from the tap or something, or not in every region. And then a fresh chilled glass of water ready in the fridge is something, this is priceless. So
Yes.
having those snacks, I only always have to say, also those snacks are so important. Like today, I'm in an Airbnb at the moment. We were working all day long. And I didn't have time to go shopping. And I'm so glad that they have a pack of spaghetti there. It's just the best spaghetti I will ever have. And those things, they do not cost much, but people will really, really appreciate them.
Fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's those little touches that really make a difference.
And take the price tags off, like, not only like two dishwasher tabs or just like
Yes.
this little amount of soap or whatever. Just this is just pennies, and people are so happy
Yes.
if they can simply help themselves. And okay, every other guest takes something more, but the other ones, they all leave 5-star reviews.
Yes, I totally agree that the two dishwasher tablets drives me mad as well. Um,
Yes.
Seeing some interesting comments in the chat about differences between the US and Germany. What do you think are the differences? Are you seeing any patterns in your guests as to whether they are from Germany or from the US versus your international guests? Do they have different sets of expectations for you?
Dolly?
I don't know that they have expectations, or at least that they've expressed them, but I'll tell you a funny story. You know, I have traveled, many places, and especially in Europe, and every Airbnb and even hotel, now that I think about it, has had an electric kettle. And so when I started my Airbnb almost 10 years ago now, my first listing, I started having an electric kettle in every property that has ever graced, whether as a co-host or as my primary listing. Um, so many Americans have grabbed that electric kettle and put it on the stove that
Oh
and have
dear.
ruined my electric kettles that I've actually had to make a little, label to let them know, please don't put this on the stove. It's electric. Just, fill it up with water and turn it on. But other than that, in terms of a difference, I haven't noticed that, any certain expectation has been made. I think when you're a gracious host, like Anik was mentioning, don't limit the number of items, the pods, the toilet paper, the this. I think people just notice that and they're grateful. They see that effort and they feel so cared for that, you know, nothing's really missing. Even if something is missing, nothing's really missing because they see the effort was there. And if I need something, I'm going to go to the store and get it myself. I've never really had, you know, anything requested, of me, especially when a guest arrives and they see they have absolutely everything and great coffee. I mean, what else do they need? Right?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the reverse story of that. My when I used to live in the US, my mother came to visit, and we traveled around hotels, and she got very frustrated that there were no electric kettles. In the hotel, she was like, "How can I make my tea?" Um, and Liz, I love that you're from New Zealand. I'm also from New Zealand, and yes, you're right. We have not only electric kettles, but also toasters. So we have high expectations when we stay places. But Anik, yeah, tell me, are you seeing differences between your German visitors versus your
Um,
international visitors?
Yeah, I I used to work in a large hotel a few years ago, many years ago, and there all the American guests killed their curling iron because they didn't weren't expecting this higher voltage we have in Germany. And also, sometimes American guests have problems opening the windows in Germany because it's a different system. Also, when we were in America for the first time, my husband came from the toilet and said, "Oh God, it's all clogged." It's because it's simply a different system. So what I would say in general is always to keep in mind that the most simple things like opening a window, putting your electric device into the socket might be a challenge for someone who's coming from a different country.
Mm.
So, for example, having if you see someone's coming from the US, it's super great to have some adapters ready. I know they tend to disappear, but if you compare
Right.
the
Yeah.
amount of help you give to someone like that to the amount of money the person is leaving there with you, well, it's a great deal.
That's a really nice idea. I really wish people did that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Agree.
that's fantastic. Let's move on because I'm conscious we've got two other myths. And the myth two is that hosting is passive income. I think probably everyone on this call knows this myth is not true. But I want to open it up to our audience. I'm going to start a poll. Um, Let me just make sure. Can you see the poll? Yep. So go ahead and answer. I'll just give us 30 seconds to see what people are saying in terms of um, how many hours. Great. Got a lot of, let me share, go ahead and share those results. Can you see the results? Yeah, great. So this is very similar to what we saw in the report. Um, that most, yeah, in fact, almost the numbers are identical, and that was quite unintentional. Um, yeah, so what we're seeing is that people are spending, on average, people with between 1 to 4 properties available for rent, they're spending on average an extra 8 hours per week. And when that doesn't sound very much, when it's on top of the other job that they're doing, we're actually seeing a lot of hosts feeling or starting to feel a bit burnt out because, in their words, what we're hearing is that they feel like they're always on call. And one host was explaining to me that they have to travel for their job. They go to conferences in other countries, and of course, guests don't know that. So they get woken up in the middle of the night having to deal with whatever it might be. And of course, they want to provide a good service to their guests, so they feel that they must leave their phone on. So Anik, maybe I'll start with you. what could hosts do to to lessen this feeling so they don't feel like they're on call 24 hours a day? Are there any tips or techniques or tricks you have to lessen that stress?
Well, it's a very, very simple one. First of all, like Dolly said, try to automate everything you can, and then automate. And then the second thing is, if you optimize your listing, whenever, also for the English community, English speaking community, you can see on my YouTube channel one video called the Amazon Technique, and that said, simply add descriptions in your picture gallery. Put it right into the picture to make it clear what you are talking about, because normally the picture gallery is so easy to misunderstand. On booking.com, we have no picture description at all. On Airbnb, you have to click on it. So people don't see what you would like to explain and they don't understand. And this is how many, many questions and misunderstandings and false expectations come to life. And so what I hear from the hosts I'm training, I'm consulting, is that when they change the picture gallery, that they make it fill it with precise information, they don't get any more questions. Everything is clear. So we do that in the picture gallery, and then second one in the online guest, how do you say, guest book, online guest book. And I show them how to link the guest book in every single email, always on the bottom, always saying you find all the information in this guest book, and then how to not like they're having the story of your life, but really the most important information visible on the spot. And then of course, there are still emergencies, and I think Dolly will have lots of ideas what to do with them. But what I would like to say is, if you give precise information, easily to digest, to consume, easily to see, then I would say 70% of the questions are gone.
That's fantastic. Can you give us a specific example of, I think it's just such a great idea to put text onto the photos. I didn't even think of it until you explained that. Can you give us a specific example of the sort of text you've added to a photograph?
For example, if you show the picture of a sauna, in my listing, the sauna is in the house, but not in the apartment. So the sauna is shared with other people. And I've added there in the text that the sauna is in the house, it's free of charge, and it's open 24/7. So there is an advantage. It's in the house, it's free of charge, it's 24/7. But like that, that you're going to share it with other guests.
Yeah,
That's a simple example.
that's a great tip. Thank you so much for sharing. Dolly, what ideas do you have for hosts that are feeling like they're always on call?
Very similar to what Anik said, like one of the things that I tell new hosts that I mentor is, pay attention to the questions that guests are asking you, especially upon check-in. You send that quick little check-in, hey, how's it going? Making sure settled in, okay. What are the questions they're coming back with? And then either, address them in the guest book or house manual, like Anik mentioned, right? So just be proactive with that, or even put it in the welcome message. The platforms share, for example, the Wi-Fi information, but that's typically the first thing guests ask for.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of things with that. Number one, I put it right into their welcome message. Hey, you've arrived at Slice of Paradise. Here's the Wi-Fi information. Like I just put it there for them already, so they don't have to be bothered with asking. And then I put it on the lower right side of every refrigerator. And then I put that in parentheses as well. It's also, you'll find it on a sticker on the refrigerator, TVs, on all of the TVs as well. So just things like that, just kind of pay attention to what they're asking you and then get ahead of that by providing it in advance. And then I would say that, if for someone, if hosting is just too much, like you mentioned, for most people, they have a full-time job already, is perhaps consider getting a co-host, if you're willing to part with a percentage of your earnings.
That's a great point, Ollie. And what do you think the pros and cons of having a co-host, sorry, versus
Mhm.
actually using a property management company?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think property management company, you lose all control, right, of the listing unless you want to use it yourself, from my understanding. I've never used one, but from what I hear in the community. And then with a co-host, you can sort of level set what kind of control you want them to have. Is it just guest communication? Is it just turnovers? Like, maybe what is the pain point that you as a host are feeling that you are willing, right, to give up to someone else? Um, but I think maybe that's probably, the biggest difference.
Yeah, great. And Anik, how do you feel about that? And how is it in Germany? Is it quite common to use a co-host or a property management company?
I just have to get the wordings right. The company, you mean this is one you simply say, well, please, here are my pictures. Please put all the listings on the different OTA platforms, booking platforms. All right.
Yes,
Uh,
they run everything for you. Exactly.
Actually, when we bought our apartment, it was listed by a so-called professional company like that. And we looked at the listing and said, And oh, we canceled the contract. And within 6 months, we more than doubled the amount of bookings we got, the occupancy. And yeah, we went up from 11,000 to 27,000 euro within 1 year. And
Wow.
now the apartment is between 30,000 and 40,000 per year. So we started with 11,000. And we did this by having two strategies. One is the precise picture gallery with text in the pictures. You can do that on Booking and Airbnb. It's not allowed, but actually nobody says anything, to be honest.
We won't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell him anybody. We were just here alone in the room, right?
Yeah.
And um, uh, and then the second thing is price labs. Yeah. And I always tell people, if you don't have time, if you're simply too busy to do anything, or if technique you have an technical allergy, something like that, then give it to a company. But if you depend on your earnings, and if you like being in contact with guests, just do it yourself. It's really not rocket science. And every single minute you are investing, I do have to say at the beginning, it is a bit of work, yeah, to install everything and so on. But then if you there you have so many possibilities, really, like to make more of it, and to make a living of it. I mean, I know people who really are alone and have raised one child, and one of my clients, she started as a host, and after she opened her apartment, she called me and told me, Anik, I have how do you say, I'm very, very seriously sick, and this just saved my life. That I have now this income. Okay, it's not passive, but it's really much less work than any other job. It's less stress. And the way we installed everything with a lot of automation, she can now provide for her child, and take care of herself. And she says this is such a relief. So this is a very clear answer. Just keep it to yourself. And for the co-hosting, uh, I have to leave on time from this meeting because afterwards I have to help a host who might have a problem with a co-host who did not get the settings right. So setting up a listing, you need someone who is very precise and really taking care to tick the right boxes. If you have someone as a co-host who goes like, yeah, I manage, then be careful, because afterwards to solve the problem might be a big thing. Just saying.
Great advice. And this is a really nice segue. I'm seeing lots of comments in the chat and on Q&A about AI and automation. And this just might be the longest I have gone without talking about AI. So let's jump into that final myth, which we hypothesized and thought before we launched the survey, that AI is too complex or it's not for me, that many hosts feel this way. And so I would love to jump into the AI topic. Let me launch a poll for those in our audience. Just go ahead and answer whether or not you're using AI. And perhaps whilst people are answering that poll, Dolly, what's your favorite use of AI that you have seen in hosting?
Oh gosh, I mean, I use AI every single day, but I would say the best use so far for me has been automating guest communication. So I use a channel manager, and through that channel manager, I set up the parameters. So it knows what to say if a guest asks for, early check-in, or if they request a late checkout, or if they want to confirm what the Wi-Fi is. I just have all of that automated, where it just kind of sends me a quick little message like, hey, we're about to reply with this, so I can edit it quickly if I need to, based on, whether we've had a conversation. Because that's the one thing I've seen with automation. It can sometimes be a little bit clunky if you've had a conversation with a guest, but then they send you a question and you're relying on AI to respond. um, it doesn't always take into consideration the conversation you've had with the guest. So just be mindful of that so that it doesn't seem um, so so much like a machine and not like a real person. But I would say 99% of the time it works really well for me. And that's one thing that I've implemented this year that has been an absolute game changer. It saved a lot of time for me. So I don't think, AI makes you less human. For me, I think it helps you be more human in a way, because you feel less overwhelmed with so many other things when you know that certain things are just kind of running like clockwork.
Great. And that's, look, here's the results from that poll. And again, the results from this webinar are very similar to what we saw in the survey. The hosting community is pretty much split down the middle on AI,
Yeah.
between not using it and using it. What we saw in the survey was about 14% of our hosts were really embracing AI, and we saw some pretty interesting uses of AI in the survey. And what we found interesting as Price Labs was, although people say they're not using AI, they are using, 82% of them were using dynamic pricing, which clearly reminded us that we need to remind our community that Price Labs is in fact AI. So if you're using Price Labs, you are using AI. It's just obviously targeted to a very specific use case. Anik, I'd love to talk to you and ask you the same question we asked Dolly. How do you use AI, and where are you seeing the biggest impact?
Yeah, I'm kind of an AI nerd, and I'm
Me too.
yeah. So I started building AI assistants, or custom GPTs to be precise, already like when it came up. And the first custom GPT, which is like a pre-trained GPT that's giving better results. The first one was helping hosts to find the right words if they have a difficult request from the guest or a bad review. So simply to find the right words, how to say yes or no, or how to say, yeah, we would have loved to help you if you could have told us when we asked you the day after you arrived and not in the review, the classic. Yeah. And, you want to give a reply to the review which sounds still inviting for potential guests, which is actually the biggest job for a reply. When you're replying to a guest who left you a bad review, don't think about the guest. Think about the potential guest that are reading your reply and think, okay, this is how the host is going to react if I have this problem. So and their AI is ChatGPT or other large language models are really genius because they take out the feelings. So this is how we started. And now we are into AI with a whole process to first we start by really getting like a profile of the perfect guest, perfect matching guest for your special apartment. So we built different avatars with AI, and then you can make it like you can ask your avatar, which is your perfect guest, what would you need to book my listing? What is still missing? What do you find very important? And so on. So like that, we can improve and add amenities or improve the conversation. And like that, the website and also the listings, they become more interesting. And if you have a listing that's more interesting, people look at it longer. And then this is one of the things that the algorithm is also measuring. So meaning listings who are more interesting for the people, obviously, because they take longer time they're staying on them for longer, then you're climbing up the ladder with it. So there are many, many countless possibilities to use AI in
I
host.
love that idea. I love that idea of building an avatar. I'm really intrigued as to what it would say. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Dolly, I saw in the chat, Ben has obviously invested himself quite a lot in AI and he's building out workflows. When you're talking to your clients, how do you advise them on AI? Do you advise them to get that hands-on and build workflows, or in your opinion, is it better to buy an existing tool? How do we think through that?
Yeah, no. So it really depends on, where they are. Okay. Typically they're new hosts. A lot of times they have these misconceptions about AI. So, I'll just meet them where they are. And sometimes it's as simple as, let AI help you write your house rules. So just interacting with a chat GPT, so just helping them not to be so afraid of it, leaning into it and being curious about it and not fearing, that it's going to come and sort of, take over, whatever mentality that folks usually have. But it's usually just meeting them at a very basic level. They're not usually, when new hosts come to me, they're not ready for an avatar, right? They're not ready for workflows just yet. So it's usually at the very basic, beginning.
Great. And are you using AI to create your guest books?
Absolutely. I'm using AI for absolutely everything. I mean, just the listing description itself, um, just to describe, what is the feeling that I want the potential guests to feel, when they're looking at my listing, and just getting overall advice like that, it's such a wonderful tool.
Yeah,
Absolutely love it.
totally agree. Look, maybe I'll ask one last question of each of you, and then I'm conscious we've got quite a few questions in the Q&A, so I want to make sure to get to those too. What would be your advice? We've got, oh, I'm not sure if I shared these results. Did I share these results? Here we go. Here are the results from the survey of this audience. So, we're very split in this room as to whether we're using AI or we're not using AI. For the roughly 50% that aren't using AI, one piece of advice to get started. Anik, maybe we'll start with you.
Um, in my traders, I really have to say it's not a question of age. My mom is 76 now, and I told her I simply showed her over coffee how it works, and then she called me and she said, I'm so annoyed because my boyfriend has such an old TV, and I asked ChatGPT, how can I how do you say, how can I make it kaput? How can I make it not work, but so that he has to buy another one and nobody's noticing? So whatever you would like to know, just ask AI. For this, I have a spoiler. AI couldn't help her, but I
Oh.
see that what I would like to say it, make it playful. Just whatever you would like to know. But what I would suggest is, many people, when they start with AI, they're typing it like it's Google. They simply, I see many people typing in like, find restaurant Thai, something like that. And what I would suggest is speak to ChatGPT like you would speak to a good friend and say, I'm looking for a really good restaurant here in the town XYZ. And we're just two people. And, the one really likes this and this and that and that. And we would like to walk home. We are in this and that region. Do you have like 3 suggestions for me? Yeah. So longer
Fantastic.
text, more context.
Yeah, great, a great point. I love the idea of making it playful and talking to it like it's a friend. And I saw in the chat, people are naming their AI. That's fascinating. Dolly, what would be your advice?
Yeah, I love what Anik just mentioned. What I would add to that is that not only can you speak to it, but you can actually put it on video mode. Okay, and so like for my listing, that's exactly what I did. I went on video mode and I just showed it my entire listing like it was there, like it was my friend visiting. And I said, now help me write a listing description. Things like that. The same with like house rules. House rules tend to be so dreadful and boring. So put it through AI and say, hey, make these house rules shorter and more engaging so that people will actually want to read them. Okay, because that's the goal. So there's just so many different ways. But yeah, that's exactly what Anik mentioned. Just make it playful, like it's your friend, talk to it, video call with it. There's just a lot more than an elevated Google, for sure.
That's a really great point. Right, I'm going to jump over into the Q&A. And I see there's a great question here from Colin. Doesn't automation take away a lot of the charm of hosting when a family or group of friends shares with us about their plans or what they're looking forward to do in the area? We always take the time to write a personal reply. I feel like the guests appreciate that, and the stay will feel different for them. What's your take on this? Does automation take away that charm of hosting?
I don't think it has to. I agree with you. I love when guests ask me, a specific question. I'm traveling with kids. What are the nice things to do? I love to engage with them. So, when I talk about automation, I'm talking about the mundane stuff. hey, you're arriving 3 days from now. I still don't have your expected check-in time. Just sort of those types of things. But if the guest wants to engage with me, I love that. I'm all for it. So it really just depends on the level of engagement that you want with the guest. So you never have to take that away, in my opinion.
Great, thanks, Dolly. And Nick, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Because, yeah, I would say, always, or I have to start first. When people are asking you for recommendations, to be honest, it's a repetition. So, I mean, it's always families, it's always elderly people, couples, and so on. So, why not having that ready? Why not having that like on a beautifully designed page on in your guest book that people can look it up anytime, and then you can say this is perfect for families and so on, and they will feel welcome because you have foreseen that there might be something interesting for families. But what I think I would save time there, or simply have text blocks ready. I'm using things like text expander. I simply type XYZ and then I have the whole text block within. So you could do text blocks for those recommendations, for example, and simply combine them. And the second thing is that I would automate. You can automate everything. Actually, in my listing, I have almost no contact with the guest, but before they arrive, I either call them in person or I'm sending them a video message, which is personalized. And this you can automate that whenever you have a check-in coming up, you have a little message on your phone. You need an extra app for that, obviously. Or you can do that now on Airbnb. You can do video messages. So whenever you know you have someone checking in, you simply say, okay, I have a guest checking in. So I press the button and I'm doing a video message for him. And then in the video message, I call the guest by his or her name. So the guest sees, oh, this is not an automated message. She really did that for me. And this is something people really love, and they will behave differently. If you're sending them such a message, can be really not, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't know how many grammar mistakes I've done in this webinar, but I think you all don't care. It's just about what you would like to say. It's not about making mistakes. So just make not perfect videos and guests will really love it.
That's a great idea. I love it.
Sure.
We're getting a bunch of questions, and this was an interesting finding in the report that I mentioned, that of all the tech investments that we're seeing people want to do in 2026, the one that came out on top was creating their own direct booking website. So 30% of the people we surveyed said that they were going to spend more next year on their own direct booking website. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Dolly, maybe we'll start with you. Do you have your own direct booking website? How do you think about that versus going on the OTAs? Yeah, I'd love to get your perspective.
Yeah, I actually just launched my own direct booking website, but I don't have super high hopes. I rely on, the OTAs. I think that that's where the traffic comes. I think maybe with time, as I've built enough of a portfolio of guests who want to return, but I don't see it. Like I look at my listing, I think it's a fantastic place. I mean, it really is. But, when you think of the grand scheme, there's just so many listings out there and so many platforms that I don't know that someone's going to remember to want to just come and click on mine. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know that that's the best use of my time right now. I don't know that um, it's going to pay off in the long run. So I will continue to focusing on what I mentioned, focusing on the basics, focusing on amenities, and, letting my property stand out by getting great reviews. if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. Fantastic. Anik, how about you? Do you have a direct booking website? Are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I do have, and this is a question that many hosts ask me. I would say, of course, it sounds very attractive to have a direct booking website because then you're saving all the provisions. Okay, that's for sure. But, setting up the website, hosting the website, making it visible, this is all time and cost and effort. And I think I'm totally with Dolly. Uh, many hosts, especially when they start, they don't know how convenient it is to receive a booking via, e.g., Booking.com, Airbnb, or another fully automated platform. And then how annoying it can be to have a direct booking with many emails and so on and so on. So, yeah, I would suggest if you would start, just take like this, how do you say, those packages, some PMS or channel managers, they offer this kind of website builder, which is included there, and there you can do a basic website. What I can really say, don't spend much time on that. First, set up your listing on the big platform. This is far more important. And take great care what kind of name you're giving to your apartment, because many people first go on Booking.com or Verbo or whatever and look up what kind of listings there are. And after that, they try to Google them and to see if they get a better price on the website. If you choose a name that already exists 100 times, you will lose your guest on the way. And also, if you have a name that is difficult to spell or something like that, you will have the same problem. And always make sure that you have the correct name, which is, it should be like as precise as a phone number, that people really will find your website and not the one of your competitor. Like I did the same mistake when we bought our apartment because I was just starting there. My listing has the same name like 5 different other apartments in Germany. So I always had to add the location, the village it's located in. So really, don't spend so much time on the website. Spend a lot of time on the thought how to name your listing, your apartment.
Fantastic advice. Look, I'm conscious of time, and so I'm going to wrap up here. I'm also aware there are Q&As that we have not, sorry, questions we have not got to. We will reach out to you and answer your questions. Don't worry about that. Just a quick wrap up of the topics that we talked about today. We are seeing hosting becoming more professional. People are treating it like a real business. If you are not today, now is the time to start. The good news is, as we've heard from both Anik and Dolly, there are tools like Price Labs that are here to help you. So you don't need to necessarily put more hours in. There is a lot of AI, there is a lot of automation out there that can make this manageable. Please do, if you haven't already, jump over to our website, take a read of the report yourself. A huge thank you to everybody that answered it. And a huge thank you to Anik and Dolly. Aren't they fabulous? I can see lots of questions in the Q&A of people wanting to get in touch. We will share the links to both Anik and Dolly so that you have access to them. Let me ask them just both one final question to end us for tonight, because I'm aware that Anik has to jump off. Let me ask you about the future of travel. It's a very big topic to end in our last 1 minute. Are we seeing the end of days for OTAs? Is all travel search going to move to OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of the AI models? Are people in the future just going to be chatting to AI and saying, I'm looking for an apartment in Florida, or I'm looking for an apartment with a sauna in Germany? Give me a recommendation. Is that where we're heading? Dolly, what do you think?
I hope so. I think that'd be fantastic. I think the more people become comfortable, with AI, the better off we'll all be. But I just think that we're gonna crawl there, if that makes sense. I don't think we're running there anytime soon. But I do hope to see that as the future for sure.
And Nick, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, the thing is that people are simply going to ask something. They are not going to look for like, I would like to go to this location. I think location is out in the future. I think it's only like, I would like to drive 1 hour maximum, and I would like to have some sun, and I would like to have a beach and some culture. Yeah. And then, people, I think in 10 years' time, people will forget the name of the town they are actually visiting because they are simply following Google Maps and following the advice that ChatGPT gave them. I'm honest. I think that. And but I also think that, for the guest, it's very important to have a result that looks familiar. So the problem is when every single host is setting up their own website, they all have the information somewhere else, and you don't have the reviews. So reviews are still very, very important, and I think they will stay important. So I think those advertisements, I don't know if it's a listing or something, if it's linked to many, many reviews, then this is something people will trust in. If it's simply a website, you will go like, yeah, but who knows?
Fantastic. Yeah. Who knows where we're going with the future of travel? Very fun journey to go on, though. A huge thank you, huge thank you to both of you for joining us today and discussing this report. A huge thank you to our audience. You've been fabulous. I've loved seeing you help each other in the chat. What a great community. Thank you for turning up today. We are aware that our timing is in the middle of the workday in the US, and you already have your jobs and your work as well as your hosting. And those in Europe or other time zones, it's later in the evening. I think probably only our New Zealand participant had this in a good time. But thank you very much to everybody who joined today. And I wish you a good night or a good afternoon.
Hi, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.